Well, that's quite a few questions in one. I mean, firstly, the name Lava. So we started our architecture practice in 2007. And we always thought it's more than an architecture practice. It's a network of like-minded individuals. And we didn't want to name it after our names like Chris Bosse Architects or Tobias Walliser Alexander Rieck Architects. So we were looking for a name that was more inclusive and is open to interpretation, but acts as an umbrella in order to bring other people on board under this umbrella. So there could be Lava design, Lava interior, Lava architecture, Lava products, Lava master planning, Lava fashion, and everybody can kind of identify with that brand. So it's more brand than our individual names. And there's a proud tradition of these acronyms in architecture, I think starting from people like Rem Koolhaas with OMA, the Office for Metropolitan Architecture, and BIG and SOM and KPF and so on. Often these acronyms stand for names like Cohen, Peterson, Fox, KPF, but then increasingly they became kind of a play on words. And for us, Lava had to do with laboratory, with vision, and with architecture. And laboratory, because we think that architecture is not a predefined formula. It's something that you need to discover and experiment, and that is open for interpretation and experimentation. Visionary, because we don't think that architecture can just simply build on what existed before. Obviously the history of architecture is important, but even the history of architecture is full of vision. The vision of the world 2,000 years ago, 500 years ago, 20 years ago. And as we know, the world changes continuously. Nobody could have expected the world to be the way that it is in 2020. So we like to project forward for the next 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, and 1,000 years, how we see the world unfolding. And that's where the vision comes in. In the beginning, people were a little bit hesitant to embrace this idea of vision. So our concern was a little bit developers. The last thing they want is a laboratory where they don't know what the outcome is. The last thing they need is a vision where they have to kind of think ahead. But I think more and more people realize that a vision for the future is needed. And lastly, Lava obviously also is the name of a kind of fluid rock material that erupts from volcanoes. So we thought there's a nice dynamic about this idea of eruption and constant flow and metamorphosis and not standing still.
That makes sense.
We have our junior team, which is kind of the up-and-coming Lava members. We call them magma in the tradition of geoscience. So magma is kind of the lava before it erupts. And there are students from universities around the world that do internships within our offices and then grow into full-blown Lava members over time.
I love that, the wordplay. I very much appreciate that. I want to reiterate kind of the last part of Max's question there. And I realize this is an open-ended question, so please take all the time you need. But can you describe for us, perhaps at a high level, what your design philosophy is or what your kind of architectural philosophy is? What drives your work?
So there's a number of different angles to that question. I think what you mentioned in the introduction was this idea of more with less. And more with less, again, this is play on words where Mies van der Rohe famously said less is more. So you have to do as little as possible as an intervention. I think Philip Johnson said less is bore. And Rem Koolhaas said all sorts of things. So it is kind of an ongoing philosophical debate amongst architects. And I think Buckminster Fuller actually coined this terminology of more with less. And so more means for us, we don't want to, in this age of sustainability and being mindful of resources and all these kind of socio-economic issues, we don't want to stop doing what we're doing. So we want to produce more architecture, we want to develop more communities, we want to help more people, we want to create more cities, but we have to do it increasingly with less energy, less materials, and essentially less more technology.